Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Ayin number 70 in Baba Basra. As we learn Prachenakol Beis Yisrael and Sun Basar V'Shivya. Says the Gemara 3 lines from the top of the page. Now let's recall. Yesterday the main discussion was about if you sell your field, you do not include in it mature. We'll use your word, Moshe. Mature carob trees or mature sycamore trees, because those have their own significance. So it's like a separate field. Those trees are mature. When we sell your field, you might include small, non-mature, immature trees, but not these large, mature trees. Those are not included. So what happens if you sell your field and you specifically say, I'm selling you this field with the exception of this tree, this particular, let's call it the sycamore tree. Well, it's not included anyway. Why did you say that for? So that's the question. Let's say I say, I'm selling you the tree, I'm selling you the field. This particular carob tree would not be sold anyway with it, as we've already discussed, because it has its own significance. It's like a separate field. So if he says chutz mechar ploni or chutz misadam ploni, with the accepting, reserving for myself this carob tree or this sycamore tree, what do you say there? Do you say, okay, that I didn't sell, the purchaser does not acquire that particular tree? Would you say that, let's say he's got 5 large, mature carob trees, and we said that the carob trees are not included anyway. But he says, I'm selling you the field, I'm not selling you that particular carob tree. Carob tree number 1, I'm not selling. Does that mean that 2, 3, 4, and 5 are sold? Why would that be? No, he's not calling any of them. So why did he say accepting this one? So Rashbam says, you know why he said this except one? Because either he's emphasizing, I want to make sure that you're not getting this particular tree. Even if I wouldn't have said that I'm not selling this carob, you wouldn't get it anyway, but I want to make sure 100%. Or he's adding on more words, like we said before, that even according to Bakiva, who says, if I sell you my chutzner, my house and my chutzner, you don't get the well. You don't get the well, right? You don't get the well because the Gemara said that you don't get the well. What about the path leading to the well? So Bakiva said, you know what? Since I sell it generously, I don't even keep the path for myself, and I have to get a helicopter or purchase back the rights to use your pathway. But if I said I'm selling it to you without the well, then the well wouldn't have been included anyway. But if I'm adding the extra words, that's giving to me some extra right. So if I said, according to Bakiva, according to everybody, if I sell you the house and the chutzner, you don't get the well. Everybody agrees with that. But Rabbi Kiva says, I don't keep for myself the path. But if I say I'm reserving for myself the well, then the extra words helps me to get that path. So maybe over here too, maybe I'm going to get something extra. In other words, when I say I'm selling you this field but this carob tree number 1 you're not getting, you wouldn't have gotten it anyway. So why did I say you're not getting it? Oh, so maybe I'll get the path leading up to the carob tree so that I can walk on it. Maybe that's what the extra words are for. Otherwise, the words seem to be meaningless. In fact, Rashbam says they're almost shtus. What'd you say it for? Those trees are not included anyway. So why'd you say they're not included? So what do you say? Do you say that since I said I'm not selling you carob number 1, you're getting 2, 3, 4, and 5? Or do you say no, you don't get any of them? So Rav Sheshes answered, Lo Kani, you don't get it. You don't get it. No, he doesn't get any of them. Eisvei, what about this brisa? Chutz mechar ploni, chutz misadim ploni, Lo Kani, you don't get it. My lab, Osachar Lo Kani, he doesn't get that one. Who Lo Kani, Hashachram, because Mash, the other ones you would get. Amalei Lo, Afil Shachram, Nami Lo Kani, you don't get any of them. In other words, I said I'm selling you this field. You don't get the carob tree anyway. But I said, and I'm not selling you this carob tree. What did I say that for? You know what? To give me an extra right, or stam, I said it to make sure that you don't get this carob tree, but you don't get the other ones either, because none of them are sold with you. None of them are sold to you. Says, Tata, what's the proof? The Elo Omar. Let's say he said to him, I'm selling you my field. By the way, I have this one field. I'm selling you this one field. I have a lot of fields, but I'm selling you field number 1. But I'm not selling you the one next to it. I'm selling you field number 1. I'm not selling field number 2. Let's say I have 3, 4, and 5 too. Does that mean I'm selling you 3, 4, and 5? I'm selling you one field. Sadi, I'm selling you one field, singular. I'm selling you field number 1. And I say, but don't worry, don't think you're getting number 2 with it, the one that borders, you're not getting that one. Okay, what does that mean? You are getting 3, 4, and 5? No, you're not getting them. Economy, some say that the question was a little bit more detailed, even more ridiculous, you might say. He asked this kasha. Let's say it says, I'm selling you this field, and I'm reserving myself half of the carob tree, half of this particular carob tree, number one, or except half of this sycamore tree. Now, Shachruv and Badi Lakoni, you certainly don't get the other ones, as we said before. Just like Musadi, you don't get the other ones. Rashi says Pshita, that's not, you don't get those. Rashbam in the wide lines here says, Shachram halfway down in the wide lines, Shachram Pshita Lokani. I'll tell you, you see, if I'm selling you one field, you don't get the other ones. So you're not getting the other ones. Let's say I'm selling you this field. Again, you wouldn't get the carob or the sycamore trees with it anyway, even if I didn't say anything. But I said, I'm selling this field, and I'm not selling you half of the carob tree, this carob tree number one. Does that mean you get the other half? Right? How much the purchaser does get it? He doesn't get any of them. Look, he doesn't get any of it. Another Bryce that asks on this case. Let's say I'm selling you the field and I'm reserving myself half of this carob tree. I'm selling it to you, but I'm not selling you half of the carob tree. Except half of the sycamore tree. You don't get the other ones. My love, Shachar, you don't get the other ones. But what I left over in this particular, I said I'm selling you this field, and I'm not selling you half of this carob tree. Does that mean you get the other half? I'm lay low. I feel you don't get also look on it. Again, if I say I'm selling you one field, my field, not sadai plural, but sadi. I'm selling you my field number one. I'm selling you this field, and I'm not selling you half of another field. You don't get that one. You don't get that. You don't get what? You don't get the other ones. You get half of the other ones. You're not going to. You think you get half of the other one? In other words, the fact that I said these extra words, and Rashbam even calls it Mishil Shama Shtus Zeh. The fact that I said these extra words, again, according to Bekiva, maybe the extra words were tied to you to a pathway. According to Rabban, it's just meant to be very clear about it. I'm just saying, why did I say I'm not selling you this carob tree or half of this carob tree? I want to be 100% sure that you understand you're not going to get that. There's no dispute about that. But I didn't really have to say it at all. So the fact that I said it doesn't take away my other rights. Selling this field except for half of field number 2. Does that mean that you don't get half, but you get the other half, but you would? 5 lines from the bottom of the page in the Gemara. Now, this whole case that we're going to talk about now is really not germane to our Mishnah. Why is it brought down? Because yesterday we brought down a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel is part of the pair of Shmuel and Karna who were called the Dayana Gola. They lived in Golas and Narda and Bavel, and they were called the judges of the Golas. Rav, as we know, Rav Tano Polig, Rav ventured between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel during his lifetime. He was Rav in both places, right? So, except that he was called Rav because he was the Rebbe of Bavel. That's what he's called, Rav. That wasn't his name. We had it before. His name was Abba, whatever. But the point is that Rav and Shmuel argued there, and there the Shmuel was Dayana Gola. We had a machlokas as to seemed to be a machlokas, but we said at the end it wasn't machlokas. That what's considered a tree that's significant, that's not included in the sale of the field. So Rav said it's a tree that you have to climb on with a rope, and Dayana Gola said it's one that the yoke, if the yoke bends it, it's included. If the yoke can't bend it, then it's not included. Then we said it depends. Are we talking about a regular tree, or are we talking about a palm tree? So it's really no machlokes. But we brought down this idea of Dayana Gola. So because of that, we're going to bring down another machlokas here about Dayana Gola. Listen to this carefully. I gave you $100 to watch, like you're a guard or shomer chinam. I gave it to you as a deposit, meaning you're holding it for me. And I wrote a document. I had you sign on it. I have this document. It's like an IOU, right? You owe it to me. It wasn't a loan. You're not allowed to spend it. You don't have full responsibility. You're a shomer. What's the responsibility of a shomer? Just not to be negligent, right? And if he loses it, he has to swear that he wasn't negligent. It was an accident. It was stolen from him. He's off the hook. So, but there was a star. In other words, Reuben gave money to Shimon, gave him $100 to watch, and he made him sign that he has $100. Now Shimon, when he comes to collect the money, Shimon says, I gave it back to you already. I gave it back to you already. Now, if he's smart, or it would have been nice if when he gave him back the money, he would have taken back the IOU and ripped it up. But he didn't. He says, I returned it to you, Mao. Do you say, could have said, Shimon could have said, it was an accident, it was beyond my control. Something happened to the money. It wasn't it was a flood or something, or Ganavim came beyond my control. He's off the hook. You can't say that, well, why didn't you tear up the star? I didn't give it back to you. It was lost, right? It wasn't my fault. So since he could have said that, is he believed to say, I returned it to you? As we said before, if you lend money to somebody else with Adam, they saw me, do I have to return the money to Adam? No, not necessarily. Even though I lent you the money to Adam, you could have returned it to me without Adam. So here also, even though you returned you claim you returned it to me, why didn't you tear up the star? But maybe I claimed at the time I can't find the star or something. People weren't mocked about that. So do you say that Shimon is believed when he says, I returned it to you? Because if Amigu, he could have said, it was lost or stolen beyond my control. Hashname, he's believed also when he said, I returned to you. Dilma, Masyamla, he could say, listen, if you returned it to me, because your claim is you returned it to me, right? Why do I have the star in my hand? Why, Reuben says, why do I have the IOU still in my hand? It wasn't an like a loan, but it was a document that testified that Shimon took this as a shomer. So why didn't you get it back? Can he claim that or not? So if Chista answered, Shimon is believed to say, again, Shimon did Reuben a favor. He watched his $100 for him or his object, whatever. And now he says, I returned it to you. And Reuben says, you didn't return it to me. Remember, if he said he returned it to him, there's no discussion. All discussion is, Reuben says, where's the $100? Shimon says, I returned it to you. Believe me when I say that, I could have said it was lost or stolen beyond my control. So is Shimon believed? Rav Chista said, yes, he's believed. Why can't Reuben say, my boy? Why is if you return it to me, why do I still have the IOU? It was my money, right? You should have claimed the IOU back. Amalei, so Rav Chista said, let's say Shimon would have said it was lost or stolen. Could he have also claimed, could Reuben said, well, why do I have the star? You have the star because I never returned it to you. It was lost or stolen. I'm off the hook. I'm not a borrower. I'm a guard. I'm a guard. I did you a favor. I'm like the bank. Does the bank loses your money? Do they have to pay you? I don't think so. Unless there's an FDIC insurance. I don't think in this country there's no they lost the money. It happens. What are you going to do? Okay, maybe the government will step in, but I don't think there's any law. They lost your money. You asked them to hold it for you. You thought they were secure, but they weren't. They had a case here where people had safe deposit boxes and they came in and rifled them all and took all the money. No insurance. If he says, listen, it was lost or stolen, what is up to the star? Okay, but in that case, had he said it was lost or stolen, it was an accident, lav shvua boy, doesn't mean you have to make a shvua. Wouldn't you have to make a swear? She meant to swear that it was yes, lost or stolen. So, and the more say Rav Chista says, yeah, you know what? When we say Neman b'shvua, and he has to say, he says, I paid you back. Believe me when I say I paid you back, because I could have said it was lost or stolen. So you have no claim of what's the star doing in your hand. What's the star doing in your hand? I never bothered taking it back, but I still have to make a shvua. You're right. I have to swear that I returned it to you. Okay, so that's what Rav Chista says. Lema b'plukta tanoi. L'chora, this what Rav Chista says, that when a man says on a pikadon, on a deposit, not a loan, if I borrow money, I'm responsible. I have to pay you back. I can't say it was lost on. I borrowed money to spend it, right? To purchase a car, to pay off my debts, whatever. Money, a picadon is meant to hold on to. You're not allowed to spend it. You're a watchman. You're a guard. You can't spend it. A lova, a borrower, can spend the money. He's responsible to pay it back. You can't say it was lost or stolen. So let's say that this Rav Chista says that the nifgad, the Shimon, could say, I returned it to you. Believe me with the migu, and I'm swearing to that effect that I paid you back. Depends on the following machlokas tanon. Lema b'plukta dani tanoi. We're at the third line on Amid Beis. The Tanya. Shtar kiss. A star of the wallet. What do we mean there? Yotze al yisoma. What do we mean by that? Let's understand. We're going back to Bab Metzia now. Listen carefully. Reuven lends Shimon $100, and he says, invest it for me. Invest it, and we'll split the profits. So that's called an iska. The news we hear a lot about iska. That's not the same iska we're talking about here. Iska here is a deal that the Chachamim sanction. Why? What do we mean by that? In a stam iska, unless you specified otherwise, here's $100, and we'll split the profits. You can invest it. What do we mean by that? Half the money is considered a loan, half the money is considered a deposit. Meaning, let's say the first $50, that's my money. You're holding it for me. The profits that we're going to make on that $50, I'm going to get, right? The profits we make on your $50, you're going to get. The $50, the second $50 is really a loan. You're responsible for that. The first $50, you're simply a shomer, right? And as a shomer, you're responsible. You shouldn't get that. But let's say you invested and something happened to it. That's not negligence. It just, it was lost. So why isn't the Gemara of Masih discusses why isn't that rebid? Meaning, if we're splitting the profits, right, on the 50% that I lent you, you're making money, right? You're entitled to make money. What about the 50% that you're guarding from me? You're responsible for that, right? So for the 50, you're responsible for that only that it's you shouldn't you're not responsible in case the deal goes bad. The deal goes bad, that was an understanding, but you're guarding it for me. So the Gemara says really it should be like rebit. Why? Because you're borrowing money, right? And the money that you're borrowing, you have to pay that back, right? You have to pay that back. You can make money on the money that you borrowed, but in return for working for me also, for making money on my half, you're getting your profits. In other words, the amount you're paying me back, including the profits, right? So your responsibility is such that you're really paying rebate. Why? Because you have to pay me back the second $50 that you borrowed from me, right? That's a straight loan. You can make money on that, right? The 50% of the profits, you're making money on that. But you have to return to me the loan. But in return for the loan, you're also watching my money. You're watching my money, my $50. You're showing that. So the Chacham said, so that it shouldn't be rebid, the lender has to take less of the profits. Has to take less of the profits. It shouldn't be rebid. Otherwise, it's rebid because the lova is doing something for him. What is he doing for him? He's guarding his $50. He's working to make money. You're making money. I'm sitting and learning, and you're taking my money and investing for me. You're doing work for me. That's rebid. That's rebid. You're doing it for me. The $50 that you borrowed, that you're entitled to make money on, that's yours, and you have to pay me back. That's a loan. But you're paying me back more. What are you paying me back more? What is rebid? You're paying interest more because you're also taking care of my money. So in return for that, we say that the malva should get less of the profits. Either he takes less of the profits, or he takes more of the risk. And if the money gets lost, if there's a bigger loss, he takes, let's say, 2/3 of the loss. So that's what that's called in iska. And here the Gemara calls it a shtar kiss. It's the same idea. The time shtar kiss, you have to have some. Now let's say Reuben lent the money to Shimon for this deal, and Shimon died. And now Reuben's coming to the Yisomim and saying, give me back my money. Dayane Gola, that's why this whole Gemara is brought down here, because we talked about Shmuel and Karna being the Dayane Gola. Amr, Nishba, Bagova, Kulo. You take the whole thing. In other words, Reuben's entitled to the whole thing. Shimon, the kids of Shimon, and we claim for them also. Of course, Shimon's kids have to admit and swear that their father never said that it was paid back or not paid back, whatever. But if they have no proof that the father paid it back, Reuben can make a claim on the whole amount from them. Nishba Bagova Kulo. What do you mean Kulo? Not only the half that was a loan, but also the half that was a pikadon. Now, we're just to say in the case of a pikadon. In the case of pikadon, if Shimon says, I paid you back, believe me, because I said it was a loss, that's honored. He's believed. Here we don't say that. Here Shmuel and Karna, the Dayane Gola, says no. He can collect the whole thing. Nishba, he has to swear that he hasn't been paid back. But Gova Kulo. You don't say on behalf of the Yisomim, well, maybe it was returned. You don't say that. Dayane Gola, Nishba, Gova Kulo. Dayane Eretz Yisrael, so we said the Dayane Gola, those that's Shmuel and Karna. Dayane Eretz Yisrael, Rashbam tells us that's Ravami and Ravasi. They were the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, the judges. They say Nishba, Gova Machza. You only get half. What half? The half that was a loan. Remember, lend him $100. $50 is a loan, $50 is a pikadon, is a deposit. So you can get back the loan because the loan they're responsible to pay back. if I have is an IOU, which is effectively what it is. The Reuben has an IOU on the father that he lent him $50 as a loan. $50 was a loan, $50 was a picadon. So on the part that's a loan, if you have no proof that it was paid back, he's entitled to get his money back. That half he can get back. But the half that was a picadon, we could argue on behalf of the Somim and say, no, believe us that it was paid back, maybe because it was lost or stolen or some accident they're not responsible for. Right? That's what it says. Rashbam says, that's a machlokas over here. So now the Gemara says, we're assuming now, everybody holds in our door, the army in our door, this deal, this kind of a deal that was, I had $100 to invest for us. Notice I gave you $100 and I said, we'll split the profits or split the losses. Half is a loan, half is a pikadon. My lab, what's the machlokas here between Dayana Gola and Dayana Eretz Yisrael? The Mars over Motzi Amalei Shtarcha B'Yadam Boy. The Dayana Gola, kind of the first opinion says, listen, why is I have the star? If you paid me back, remember the first half was a loan, $50 was a loan. I have the IOU here. If you paid me back, why do I have the loan? You shouldn't have paid me back. You claim on the behalf of the Yisomim that maybe the father paid him back, and then why do I have the loan? I have the IOU. So that my boy, and therefore you can go now on the loan for sure. You got to be paid back. That's for sure an IOU. Question is, what about the picadon? Can he claim that back to? He says, yeah, I have the IOU both on the $50 it was a loan, $50 it was a picadon. So since I have the star, why do I have the star? Must be that you owe me the money. That's not like Rav Chisda. Umar Sabar lo. Mar Sabar, we don't say that. Lo matzi omelei shtach. We can't say that. That you don't say that. Mar Sabar lo matzi omelei. That you can't say shtach b'yamim. Meaning like Rav Chisda. You can't say what am I doing with the? Why do I have the IOU on the picadon if you pay me back? Why? Because maybe I weren't mocked to take it back. Or when I paid you back the picadon, you didn't have the star handy or whatever it was. So that's a machlok is Rav Chisda, meaning the ones who say you can collect the whole thing, including the half that's picadon, they say not like Rav Chisda. He's not believed to say he paid it back. And the second opinion that says, well, you can only get back the loan portion, but they can collect with the shvua. Reuven can collect the half that's a picadon, right? You can only collect the part that's a loan. You cannot collect the part that's a picadon. Holds like Rav Chisda, that these believe to say, believe me when I say I paid you back, because I could have said that it was lost or stolen. So this Rav Chisda says the machlokas between Dayana Go and Dayana Eretz Yisrael. Everybody holds a Rav Chisda, and you can't say when it comes to a picadon, comes to a deposit. Why do I have the star? Why do I have the IOU if you pay me back? This is very simple. Over here we talk about the Yisomim. If the father said I paid it back, yes, we believe him. Like Rav Chisda says, I paid you back the picadon. Why do you have the IOU? I didn't bother taking it back from you. It's not a loan. Now we're not talking about a loan. Everybody agrees on the 50%, the $50 it's a loan that he's entitled to get that back. He has an IOU. He can collect it from the Yisomim also. But on the half that's a picadon, is he believed there, or can he collect it or not? Rav Chisda says he can't collect that half picadon. Shimon's kids are believed to say maybe it was paid back. What's the machlokas over here? Everybody gives Rav Chisda the Mar Sabri meets the party. Had he paid it back, the father would have said something before he died that I paid it back. He didn't say it. Kids don't know that he said that. That's why he'd collect the whole thing according to the Dayani Gola. Umar Sabar, Aimer Malachamava Sudan say, what are you talking about? Why do you say if he would have paid it back, the father would have paid it back, he would have told the kids? Maybe he had a sudden heart attack and he died. Maybe the Malachamavas, took him away before he got a chance to say he paid it back. Therefore, we argue on behalf of the Yisomim and say maybe the father paid it back. Because the father would have been believed had it been an accident. And therefore, he can't collect it. But everybody holds Rav Chisda. What's the halacha? Shalach Rav Huna bar Avin said this halacha. Hamafkid Eitzel Chaver B'Shtar. This case, I gave you, Reuben gave Shimon $100, and he gave to watch, not as a loan, to watch for him, to guard for him. And there was a star. He's an IOU. V'amarlo. And now Shimon says, I gave it back to you. Neman, he's believed. What about the star kiss? Same thing, but it was a half loan, half picadon, and now you're collecting Hayotzal Yisomim. Nishba b'gova kulo. He says now he can swear and he can collect the whole thing. So Gemara says, what do you mean? Those things are contradictory. How can you say both those things? On the one hand, you said that if you give money to somebody, Shimon can claim I gave it back to you. You gave it back. You gave it to me to watch. I gave it back to you. I have a star doesn't mean anything. On the other hand, he says, if you go to the children and you say, give me back the money that I gave your father, half was a loan, half was a picadon, he can collect the whole thing, even the picadon. Why? Why can't we argue on behalf of the Yisomim and say it was paid back? How could these things are in contradictions? The shiny us and the imis of the party have Amar. Again, like this argument that we're saying over here, that even the Dayan Golo said he can collect the whole thing. Why? Not because they don't hold of Rav Chisda. Had Shimon himself said, I paid it back to you and I gave you back the deposit. And believe me when I say that, because I could have said it was lost or stolen, it was an accident. Had Shimon said that, fine. But over here, when it comes to Shimon's children, when Shimon died and we're collecting the children should have known. If the father would have paid it back, he should have told his kids before he died that I paid it back, and he didn't say that. And therefore, Reuben's entitled to the whole thing. Rav Amar, the halacha is like Rav Chisda, you can only collect half. Collect half from the kids, meaning the half of the loan, not half of the deposit, because we argue for the kids. He says the halacha like the anagola. Apparently, that means that he can collect the whole thing. So on the one hand, Rabbi said Hilchasa Nishbar, you only collect half, like the Dayan Eretz Yisrael. And then Marzutra said the halacha is like the Danagola. Amalei Rabbeinu Marzutra, Amar Rabbi Nishbar B'Gova Machza. How could you say the halacha is like the Danagola that you can collect the whole thing? But Rav already paskin. Rav was a later posek, said that what you can only get half. Amalei Anan Dainei Anagola Ipchamasim. We learned it the other way around. We learned that the authorship was reversed. That Dayan Anagola said you can collect half. That's why we said halacha is like Dayan Anagola. Because the question, it's always better to say what the halacha is, not the halacha is like this rabbi or that rabbi, because many times they got reversed. He says, here we got it reversed. Yes, we agree the halacha is like Rav Chisda. That the depositee is believed to say, I gave it back to you. If it was a deposit, I gave it back to you. And here are the children who had a half a loan and half a deposit. On the loan, they have to pay back for sure. But on the deposit, we argue on their behalf and say maybe the father paid it back. The halacha is that you can only collect the half of the loan, not half that's the deposit. On the deposit, we argue on behalf of the children. And we don't say this idea that like Rav Huna Bar Avin said, no, you can collect the whole thing because the father would have told the kids that he paid it back before he died. Maybe he was struck by a car or a truck or something, or he had a sudden heart attack and he didn't get a chance to tell them anything. So that's their argument. But Rabbi Paskins, no, you can only collect the half. We argue on behalf of the children and say maybe the father paid it back. That's what we said, that maybe the father paid it back. And in the case where there's only a deposit, like Rav Chisda, he's believed to say, I gave it back to you, because I could have said, I swear that I gave it back to you. I could have said that it was lost or stolen, and I would have sworn to that too. Then the fact that you have the IOU doesn't mean anything, and that's how we paskin. I must just say we paskin like Dayan Agoli seem to say you can collect everything, including half of the deposit. No, Marzutra had that the Dayan Agola was the ones who said that you only collect half, and Dayan Eretz Yisrael say that you can collect the whole thing. However, the halach is you can only collect the half in the case of the iska from the Yisomim, meaning you can only collect half of the loan they're responsible for. If Reuben had a star that he lent somebody money and the guy died, he's entitled to collect from the kids. He has a star, they get, the money. There's no excuse it was lost or stolen or we lost it on an investment. They have to pay it back. But if it was a picadon where they're not responsible if it was lost or stolen, so he could argue and say, I gave it back to you, and believe me when I say that, I swear that I gave it back to you. If I wanted to lie, I could have said that it was lost or stolen. And then the fact that you have a star doesn't mean anything, and that's how we paskin. All right, we'll pick it up tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, from the Mishnah on Daf Hayomi. Chodesh Tov l'kulam.